Well, welcome. I guess everyone's heard the news, so I think the best thing is for me to throw it to you guys and answer questions where I can. There might be some I can't answer because obviously I'm not privileged to everything that happened at the tribunal and so forth, but I'll do my best.
Can you give us your thoughts on the verdict first, the penalty that's been handed, 2 years?
Yeah, well, I guess when you reflect on it, I guess it's a fair compromise considering what happened. It's not something that we would have liked less so that Willie can get back to training earlier and so forth, but in saying that, I think the tribunal was fair in their assessment.
The thing that jumped off the page in the statement seems to be that there might have been 2 instances of tampering with a sample. Can you clarify that any more for us?
Yeah, that was correct. That was always the case. And that was always in the documentation that was presented. So that's always been the case.
It's 4 years you can get for substitution like that. Why is it fair that he's done it twice that he does get to, or you are hopeful of less? People around the world would ask that question.
Yeah, well, I think the circumstances, and we've been very consistent with this, the circumstances are very different in every case. I think if you try to compare Olympic sports to weekly sports and domestic sports like we have, I think that's being, again, unfair, and I think it needs to be addressed. I think the rules should be different for people certainly in our game, and I think we have the authority in the AFL to investigate that and make some changes if necessary. I think that's really important.
Is there fear for you, Trev, that, this is Willie's situation, but it could easily happen again, that there's a 2-year wait for a verdict? Is that what you want to see changed, that you want it sped up?
Yeah, I think the process is something that we've, again, been consistent with. We think that it just took too long from the time all the documentation was submitted to the time the tribunal's held to the time that the final verdict is given. It's 18 months, and I think that's unfair on any individual, regardless of what they've done. And in Willie's case, he admitted guilt, he admitted what he had done, and is extremely remorseful for that. Having said that, he did what he did, and in saying that, he's got a pretty stiff penalty, probably, if you look at it. He's admitted his fault, he's done all the things that he's needed to do. But look, these are never easy tasks for tribunals, and once you've done something wrong, well, you're going to get a penalty, and he was aware of that. It's just the process we're looking at.
Trevor, can you reveal any details about Willie's defence and perhaps how he was able to avoid a harsher penalty?
I can't, because I wasn't there. It was handled by our QC, David Grace, and he was obviously extremely confidential in all the information. He didn't share information with us. He was only speaking to Willie and I think sometimes his manager, and we believe that was the correct procedure. It was not for us to interfere with any procedure that was going forward, and David handled that, so I'm sorry I can't handle it.
Have you spoken to Willie since the verdict was known?
I haven't. Willie's currently at a funeral in Darwin, and we have texted him, and he's aware of, and he's obviously been aware of the penalty, I think, for longer than us, but didn't divulge that penalty, awaiting confirmation on any appeals and so forth.
Where do you think he's at mentally and physically?
Well, mentally he has been up and down, and you could expect that. He hasn't been in a good place since it started, but on other days he's been very good, and he's understanding now of when he can now set a timeline to get back to training, because if the appeal had gone ahead, we were then going to have to look at, well, is it the same time frame? Can he come back and play? But now that the appeals have not gone through, well, we can get him back to training in June and hopefully get him back playing footy and doing things he loves and get his life back on track.
Trevor, just to clarify with the 2 tampering, why did he think he could do it again? And was the club aware that he had done it the first time before the second incident? No, we don't get told that sort of information. And
I guess one of the things we learn out of these sort of situations is that perhaps we need to continue to review the AFL education system, because the education is not the same for everyone. The education is the same for everyone, but it may not suit people's needs and learning, and that's a difficult thing for all of our players, because all of our players come from a vast different groups in the community, and we need to make sure that they all understand how important it is to follow all procedures.
The way to come back on the club, the ownership, to pass on that learning, obviously we made a mistake, but do you feel like you could have been better passing on to them?
I think we always think we can be better. I think the AFL's education system is probably failed Willie to some extent, but so did ours, because we pushed this obviously probably more than most because of our history, and it's an important thing for us to ensure that our players are well educated.
So why did he do it? Did he explain why he felt the need to substitute the urine?
No, we don't know that. We don't know that, Craig, sorry.
Do you need to find out from him? Is that something you would want to find out from him before he plays?
Well, probably we'll need to find out why he thought he could do that, but I mean, that's by the by. He did it, so he's admitted he did it, so we'll just go with the process and the penalty.
Is it as simple as soon as he's allowed back, he's back? Or is there a process that you want to go through with him and set a date? Or is it June 20, he's good to come back?
June 20 is the appropriate time, yeah.
And has there ever been a risk of him walking away from footy, do you think, at any point?
Well, we think that was a possibility early on, Braden. I mean, it was always a possibility that he was going to say, look, this is too hard. He didn't do that. He's always said to us, look, football's my life. I've got 2 young children I need to feed and look after, and he's a pretty good player. He knows that, and if he's playing footy, that's what he enjoys. His family's looked after, and he can have, as I've said before, a meaningful life.
And August 20 is obviously a pretty tantalising date if you're in the finals picture. What would you think his chances of selection might be, or for limited preparation?
I'm not on selection, I'd pick him. He's a pretty good player. But the bottom line is, with Willie, is this has always been about his welfare. And I think some people think, oh, it's great, he might be back by then. He may not be. He may not be ready, and we may not even push that angle. But look, if he's well, if he's looking like he really wants to play and get back into footy as quickly as possible, I'm sure he'll be in the mix come August if we're still in the running.
What are the rules now? Training is June 20, but can he be a part of the club in any way? Can he come and spend time here?
No, he won't be back till June 20.
Just to be sure on the appeal issue, is every avenue expired, is it, even internationally?
Yeah. ASADA, which is Sports Integrity Australia now, and WADA have now decided they're not going to appeal. Most of the time that's the case, but you don't know. It's a 6-week period that we've had to... Willie's been wading through to find out, so it's a long time.
Are you able to comment on the reaction from the playing group?
I could say they're fairly delighted for one of their teammates. When I announced it to the guys, they were, really pleased for Willie. And again, I think it's not so much that he's back playing footy. I think it's about his welfare, and all of the players realise the situation that he put himself in, and I'm sure they don't want to go there themselves.
The club's shown a lot of faith in Willie by keeping him on the list and the contract being signed. What do you want to see from him now when he returns to the club?
Well, like most of our players, and in fact all of our players, we want to see them, first of all, do the right thing. Secondly, ensure that they do the best they possibly can to be the best players they can, and that'll help us be successful. But we need Willie back as soon as we can, and that'll be in June, getting involved with the rest of the club, getting involved with his teammates, and then I guess we can assess where he's at. But I think the players are delighted, he'll be delighted, and that's what we're aiming for anyway.
What do you think he's learned from this experience?
I think we've all learned from the experience. You know, it's not just Willie. I think the rest of the playing group look at this and say, gee whiz, I mean, did we actually understand the anti-doping code ourselves? And Willie certainly has learnt everything, but we'll be drilling down very, very tightly on what players and what we're expecting of our players, both men's and women's teams. We need to make sure we continue to do this, and it's not to say that people won't make mistakes along the way, but hopefully they won't from this point on.
Would that include chaperoning them for all tests, now having someone with them? I think you're allowed to have someone.
No, you can't, Craig. No.
Trevor, can you just clarify his contract situation with the club?
Yeah, well, he's got this year and next.
Still
so,
got 2022.
yes, yeah.
And are you able to use his spot? Are you able to put him on an inactive list now until August?
Well, we'll assess that with the AFL. There is an inactive list you can place players on. We'll have to assess that as we go, but that is a possibility.
Just confirming he won't be able to play any WAFL footy between that June 20 and August 21 dates.
No, that's the date. Yeah. So he won't be playing any football until August 20.
And the comp up there is the same, isn't it, in the Northern Territory?
Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah.